Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Niraj Shah. And it's a flattish day, possibly, for our markets. And there are various reasons. Frankly, if I was just trying to scan through what are the newsmakers in today's session, and there is very few out there as well. So, yes, it could well be that kind of a day. Let's first figure out what are the cues, though. The US markets ended off from where they were trading at the day before yesterday. So there was a bit of a pullback, really, more so for the Nasdaq, I think, but the Dow and the S&P too had a bit of a pullback. Now, amongst other things that happened, and frankly, this US market coming off was probably on account of the lack of agreement on the stimulus, because I think that is something that the financial markets are looking out for. But from a virus update perspective, or the race that humankind is against the virus when it comes to pharma companies being able to do something, the J&J news was known yesterday, right? It came out during market hours, I think yesterday or just slightly after around that time. But that J&J had halted the COVID-19 vaccine trial due to unexplained illness. But the point is, the fresh development about 4 hours or 4.5 hours ago was that Eli Lilly COVID antibody trial also has been paused due to safety concerns. So that's the key thing, that two names which which all of us were hoping would have some progress have had a bit of a pause. Now, this is very normal. Keep in mind, I think the first time when the Oxford University vaccine trial was halted, it really set the cat amongst the pigeons. This time around, not so, because the markets are a bit more mature in trying to understand, or all of us are a bit more mature in trying to understand that these things do take time and pauses are very, very normal. But yes, there has been a bit of a pause, sadly so. Nevertheless, financial markets, back to financial markets again. So what I'm trying to say is this did not cause the impact on the US markets. Asia, mixed bag, if you will. And if you just look at most of the markets, they are maybe slightly lower than what the previous closes were. And I think the SGX Nifty, at least when I saw it on the internet about an hour back, it was, or maybe 45 minutes back, it was showing a positive uptick of about 0.18%. But that means that we'll have a flattish start yet again. Now it is actually showing a bit of a downtick as well, about 1/3%. So it's mixed cues, maybe with a bit of a flattish to a negative bias. Now, I personally also think, I mean, when I sent in my graphics for trade setup for the morning, I did think that the index could actually show a range bound move in the session today, and it will be very, very bottom up. I think that's what's advisable currently. I would think that breather or a mild profit booking in technology and pharma is not ruled out today. And the reason is, amongst other things, is that the IT index was up for the 12th straight day, which is the longest winning streak in 22 years. At some point of time, stocks which also have tailwinds take a bit of a breather. It's only healthy, and therefore, maybe today WIPRO's results or otherwise could well be the reason why IT could take a bit of a breather. Now, but just before we move on to that, the last point that I mentioned in my trade setup is important too. I do think that action could shift to midcap IT yet again in a stronger way, because while the action in the large cap IT has been so strong and midcap IT stocks have really gone up in the last few days, there could be some, as I said, because I believe there is bottom up activity in store, there could be some activity out there. As somehow defense as well seems to be the flavor in the session today. Some smart money that I was speaking to yesterday were all talking about looking at what some of the defense stocks could do. Maybe with the listing of Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders as well adds to the activity. So do watch out for these two pockets, midcap IT and defense. Those could be in action today. Earnings, Infosys comes out with results, so I think everybody will be watching out for that. And then amongst the non-index names, Den Networks, Tata Elxsi, Titagarh Wagons are some names that traders could be watching out for. Not too much in stocks to watch, unfortunately. I'll start off with WIPRO though. That's obviously the big one. The numbers came out just immediately post-market hours. And maybe the numbers left a bit to be desired. The board has approved the buyback at 400 a share. So it's not like a really large 10-15% premium, about 6.5% premium. Also note that the stock had run up in anticipation of all of this. So, yep, the premium is not that great. Now, what is good though for WIPRO is that the Q3 revenue growth guidance is at 1.5 to 3.5%, which is better than the street estimates. The Bloomberg poll had estimated guidance of 0 to 3%. So the lower end of the guidance is much higher the upper end of the guidance higher than what the top end was. So I think that should be viewed as a positive. CLS, a bunch of brokerages, and you can read about these on our website, BloombergQuint.com, on our Twitter handle. But CLSA note seems to suggest that the recovery in WIPRO appears more a consequence of macro demand drivers and not necessarily just company-specific issues, and bridging the gap versus peers could take time. They maintain the underperform rating. Some of the other brokerages have said that you need to give the new CEO some time, and the fact that the Q3 guidance has been raised should actually be viewed positively, because we haven't seen WIPRO do this in a long time, and therefore maybe, just maybe, WIPRO could actually do better as well. Let's wait and watch. The ADR though was a bit lower, I think about 1.5% or lower in trade yesterday, and therefore I would presume that WIPRO as a stock could start off to lower today. Mild profit booking maybe. The question is, will it sustain or will it see a bit of a bounce back? Remains to be seen. So that's the verdict on WIPRO. Remember, as I said, the ADR was down about 2 percentage points. Other stocks, I think the Motilal Oswal note on Tata Consumer is interesting. They are talking about how tea prices have been hiked across North Indian region by about 261 rupees per kg weighted average over the April to September period. And this, according to them, may have a short-term impact on the gross margins for Tata Consumer, even though the long-term value creation is there. Let's wait and watch how Tata Consumer reacts in this session. It's been one hell of a FMCG stock, right? Went up all the way to 580, 585, if I'm not wrong, and then came down quite swiftly, I might add, to levels lower than 475 too. It'll be interesting to see what this one does in the short term. Last but not the least, a few stocks that all of us should watch out for based on the delivery patterns and the trading volumes. So JB Chemical had a big move yesterday, 5.4% gain. Delivery volumes were higher, about 55%. Dixon Technologies, on that note from Jefferies, was up about 6.7% yesterday at about 47% delivery volumes. That's large for a stock of that size and that kind of volumes that it had yesterday. So interesting. There's a bounce back in Hindustan Zinc yesterday. Decent delivery volumes too. People might be wanting to buy this. Maybe it does provide value if you look at it fundamentally with the kind of cash on its books and the dividend generation capability of Hindustan Zinc. Maybe people are buying it after the sell-off that it had. And a couple of mid-cap IT names, Redington, Sonata Software. Redington, not strictly mid-cap IT, but in that space, decent delivery volumes for the kind of delivery percentage for the kind of volumes that it had, as well as Sonata Software. But I dare say today morning could be all about WIPRO. As the day goes by, maybe some activity in mid-cap IT and defense stocks not ruled out. But a placid day. Take care. Have a safe trading day ahead, viewers. Thanks so much for tuning in.